snow is coming. This is not a drill, people. You know next don't play that game. Speaking of games, you know the one where you pretend to support the Obamacare repeal that you actually didn't support? Congressman Ken Buck's great at that game, and the moderator of Meet the Press says President Trump needed Buck's backpedal real bad.
The White House is probably hoping there are more Ken Bucks out there.
The head of CDOT gets real about whether the $3 billion tax hike for infrastructure would be a boon or a Band-Aid. It takes guts to propose. It takes other anatomy to surprise her with a wedding on the spot. An artist finds her painting on Colfax in the trash. And we head for a kindergarten basketball game to watch the parents. Next. Things are about to get colorful up in colorful Colorado. This is the snow and rain that's on our way tomorrow. 3 to 6 inches in the central and east parts of the metro area, 4 to 8 on the south and west sides of town. I asked meteorologist Danielle Grant if this storm is serious enough that she needed to be in here right now before her forecast from the 9 backyard later, and she said, catch me outside. How about that? Congressman Ken Buck is trying a new tactic, silence, at least with us. We tried to catch up with Buck today to talk about the 2 different stories he's been telling on whether he supported President Trump's plan to repeal and replace Obamacare. He told viewers here after the bill failed that he didn't commit to supporting it. He then went and wrote an op-ed winning praise from President Trump, claiming that he was a supporter that day. He can have it either way, but not both. Washington is taking note of Buck's back and forth. Here's politics guy Brandon Ritteman with Meet the Press moderator Chuck Todd.
It'd be one thing for a guy like Ken Buck to say, you know, if push came to shove, I ultimately would have voted in favor of this thing. It's quite another to publish an op-ed saying, you know, basically that he's championing this thing when he said he hadn't arrived there yet, just moments after it got yanked off the floor.
Yeah, that is not a comfortable place to be when essentially you can go to the audio tape and show 2 different things. Look, if you're the White House, though, you are desperate for anybody from that Freedom Caucus to say good things. And so while it may be a flawed messenger in Ken Buck, at this point, I understand why the White House, desperate for any Freedom Caucus members to take their side, that they're going to trumpet it. And I think it tells you that it's clear whatever happened here, Ken Buck is uncomfortable being totally seen as anti-Trump in this health care fight. The White House is probably hoping there are more Ken Bucks out there. So far, it doesn't look like there are.
Congressman Buck was willing to talk to the Denver Post today. He told the Post that he was a yes vote the day that the bill died, but that other members of the Freedom Caucus asked him to keep it quiet. He did not explain to the Post why he chose to misrepresent his position instead of just staying silent. City of Aurora really does not want you to see body camera footage of one of its code enforcement officers soliciting a prostitute while on duty and wearing a body cam. The code officer resigned and was sentenced to probation for soliciting this week. We solicited the body cam footage under Colorado's open records law, but the city of Aurora refused to let you see it, saying that it was concerned about personal privacy. I would be more concerned about a code officer soliciting prostitutes while on duty, but you do you, Aurora. May I make a recommendation? Point you toward the work of a friend who is an exceptional journalist. Our sister station in Minneapolis, KARE 11, has a show called Breaking the News. My friend Jana Shortle is one of the hosts. She had a fascinating interview with a former skinhead this week. Christian Piccolini didn't have a lot of friends growing up, and he says that led him to radicalization. He was a neo-Nazi for 8 years. And then he began having meaningful conversations with the people that he was trying so hard to hate. And now he travels around the country talking about how he erased that hate from his life.
What did you hate?
Oh, you know, I had hatred for black people, for Jewish people, for gay people, for anybody essentially who wasn't white. We attacked people based on the color of their skin, who they loved, who they prayed to.
You physically attacked them?
Sometimes.
Christian now has a nonprofit called Life After Hate, and on the next Facebook page you'll find more information about his organization. You can see Jana's full interview. Back in September, Sky 9 brought you a video on 9 News, firefighters and ladder trucks putting out an apartment fire near Quebec and Yale in unincorporated Arapahoe County. And then a viewer sent us some photos that drew our attention to one particular section in the rebuilt building, charred marks on the wooden siding. We went out there and we saw new wood right on top of the charred wood, and we were curious, is that seriously how you rebuild a building after it burns? We went to the Arapahoe County building inspector who showed us the blueprints, and he assures us that what we are seeing is up to code.
All that wood is discolored from the fire, and that's all there is. It's still structurally sound. The whole building's been investigated by a structural engineer, and that structural engineer has deemed it safe.
So why not just tear it down and start from scratch? You heard the structurally sound answer, but it saves money. That fire, you may recall, was started by a burning bush, kind of biblical. Fire investigators never did figure out how the bush caught on fire. Super biblical. A bipartisan plan to raise sales taxes to fund road and bridge projects around Colorado has the support of CDOT for the long road it faces. It needs to make it past Republican opposition in the legislature before you could vote yes or no on November's ballot. CDOT's executive director tells me this plan is going to raise about $3 billion over 20 years. $3 billion over 20 years. And they're looking at a $1 billion shortfall each year.
It is not a panacea. It doesn't solve every problem, but it is a big chunk out of our need. It is difficult in, we have put this investment for so long that it's hard to go out and say we're going to raise a sales tax by, multi-digits, like 5% or something like that, or we're going to raise the gas tax like 20 cents. So I think it's a bipartisan incremental approach that really moves the ball down the field.
You can see my full conversation with CDOT's executive director, Shaylin Batt. It's on the next YouTube page. There are a bunch of really smart techies from all over the world trying to solve the world's problems, and they're doing it at the moment in downtown Denver. One of the problems you didn't realize that we needed solving is how to plant 1 billion trees a year. First, Colorado needs to get rid of its bark beetle problem and then figure out how to replace all of those trees. There's an engineering group from the United Kingdom that's here working on a project to plant seedlings via drone.
These seed pods are really about this big, and these contain a germinated seed, nutrients, and everything necessary to help that seed germinate and grow into a healthy tree. We load these into our drones. The drones fly at 10 feet off the ground, and they fire these into the ground with pressurized air, and they go right into the ground like that. It's like 3D printing a forest is what we're doing.
That is exceptionally cool. This is the governor kicking off the event a few hours ago. He's there along with Megan Smith, the former Chief Technology Officer of the United States. Who knew that the U.S. a Chief Technology Officer? A lot of really interesting projects at this summit. There's an app that crowdsources, maps out anonymous accounts of sexual harassment. There's a way to make perishable foods last week's longer. And probably my favorite, and the folks who send us viewer email, an idea to turn human waste into fertilizer. That's not a tiny dude, it's a huge piece of ice. We venture to Colorado's ice caves. Danielle Grant will teach us how to build ice caves to survive the weekend snowstorm. Actually, it's just snow. Some areas are going to get a ton. An artist gets a call about a piece of work she never expected to see again. Next. The most Colorado thing we saw today are the ice caves at Rifle Mountain Park. Our colleagues, photojournalist reporter Noel Brennan, photojournalist Ann Herbst, they're up there working on a story. Water that seeps out of the limestone creates those ice caves each winter, and climbers converge from all over in order to scale the unusual ice. And the ice caves are even an easy hike right near the park entrance. I will be stopping there next time I'm through in winter because that is the most Colorado thing we saw today.
Such an incredibly beautiful part of our state. Hey, you know what? We're watching the storm system pushing in. No need for the umbrella right now anyway. Give it some time as we're watching this moisture moving in. Two questions I get. How much snowfall will we see and when will it get here? Let me answer them for you. As far as the snow goes, I've actually lowered our totals. Right now it looks more like 2 to 4 inches here in the city. Some slightly higher amounts if you live in the western suburbs and a bit more further to the south in Douglas County, where we do have a winter weather advisory in place for Castle Rock and up in the foothills as well as the Front Range Mountains. We could see 5 to 10, 6 to 12 inches from the storm. Northern Colorado, I would not anticipate all that much. I'll time it out for you. We'll be watching the rain showers pretty much off and on throughout the rest of this evening. By midnight, we are looking at cooler air starting to push into the city, and that will make that transition from rain to snow. There it is, midnight, up and down the urban corridor. We're looking at it. Overnight, the snowfall continues, but by 7 a.m., the sun's up, and we're starting to see this storm system break apart already. We have mostly cloudy skies in northern Colorado. We still are going to be watching for kind of a rain-snow mix throughout the afternoon. You can see the eastern plains picking up on some extremely beneficial water out there. Just tons of it coming in. Nice to see that, but here in the city, I think we're going to have a lot of melting, a lot of compaction, so it's really going to be tough to see this snowfall stack up, so to speak. So right now, again, 2 to 4 inches. It does not look all that impressive, but hey, we'll take the water in whatever form it comes in. Rain, snow, we're loving it. It's seasonal on Sunday, back to the mid-50s. We'll be watching our next storm system push in Monday night into Tuesday.
Hate it when you're so calm, Danielle. I love a good weather panic. All right. Thank you much. An artist recently heard from a person in possession of a painting, her painting, found in a trash can in Denver. Sandra Lee Van Dam asks next, who tosses art in the trash?
Well, I had a phone call on Wednesday. Someone said they were looking for my husband, and I asked them if I could help them. And they said, well, I've got this painting by S.L. Van Dam, and I found it on a trash can at the corner of Colfax and Broadway. It was disbelief, because as he described my signature on the painting, you know, it was my signature. I want to know why it ended up in a trash can at Colfax and Broadway. So I decided I've always wanted to paint, and so I bought some paints and some canvases, set up in the kitchen, and just started playing with the paint. I just fell in love with color, really. That's how I got more into the abstract, because you're not really dealing with subject matter. Yeah, you get attached to your paintings. You know, you're putting your personality, your thoughts. It's a very emotional thing, I think, for any artist. I just wonder why people would toss out artwork. You know, I'd really like to know how it ended up at Colfax and Broadway in a trash can.
If you can help solve the mystery, you know how it works. Email next@9news.com or get our attention with the hashtag HeyNext. She had a dream wedding in Denver and didn't have to plan a single detail.
People have asked me to describe it, and the best I can do is it was like getting punched in the face by love again and again and again.
I'm convinced kids' sports are the greatest thing in the world, unless their parents ruin it. And we slide into the weekend with your good news. Next. In the midst of this month's madness, we found one basketball competition where no bracket is busted. Because no one in the crowd cares who wins. None of the players are going to hit a dunk or a three, but you got to give them time because they're 5. Our friend Toronto Thomas is breaking out the old family camcorder for this story.
Seriously, is there anything better than kindergarten basketball? The fast breaks, the fierce defense, the misses, the misses, the misses. Seriously, there are a lot of misses, like 80%.
It's about time they scored a basket.
But here's the thing, no one cares.
We are so proud.
No one keeps score, except for big brothers and sisters.
They're doing really good. It's 18-2.
No steals allowed. And it's the only game where you'll hear
dribble, dribble,
reminders to dribble. They don't call traveling. They don't call anything.
Backcourt violation, double dribble.
I saw some dancing. Not hearing a ref's whistle actually makes this game more fun to watch. The kids just go for it. They'll eventually learn the rules of the game.
She's doing well, though, better than expected.
She'd rather be playing on her iPad, is really the truth.
But first, they learn what's really important for a kindergarten baller.
Because we worked our hardest. Yes.
For next, I'm number 4's mom.
In case you're wondering, the Harvard Gulch Rec Center kindergarten team undefeated on the season. But nobody's keeping score. Nobody's keeping score. Surprise engagements, so last century. Surprise weddings are now a thing.
When Evan proposed, he said, I have 4 questions. 1, what ring size are you? 2, does this fit? 3, will you marry me? And 4, how do you feel about a short engagement? Like, how do you feel about doing it right now?
Right now, as in right now. Evan Moore proposed in front of Union Station. She says yes, and then her friends and family start to stream across the street. People flew in from all over America for this wedding. Their daughter Penelope was there too. Evan and Bethany were married inside Union Station, a ceremony all orchestrated in advance, even written by Evan. And after that, they went over to Wynkoop Brewery, where 100 more family and friends were waiting for a surprise reception. Well done, Evan Moore, making every man everywhere look bad.
He used a discreet browser that he kept hidden. He set up a special email account just for the wedding. It was surprisewedding2017@gmail.com, which was not taken.
After the wedding came the surprise honeymoon in Hawaii. Beth says that Evan was out to top a surprise 30th birthday party she had planned for him, which was actually quite elaborate. Scavenger hunt all over the city, letters from friends and family members, ended with a big party. I'm going to say surprise wedding for the win. It's a sign, and perhaps a sign that you're seeing double. Diego Effinger sent this one to us, saw it outside at Ace Hardware store in Steamboat Springs. Says you may have to stop once or twice to see it. Double stop? Unclear. Stop twice? I don't know. If you see a sign that makes you laugh or think or just, email next@9news.com or tweet it to us with the hashtag HeyNext. We will never leave you feeling down at the end of a long week because your good news always takes us into the weekend next. Here we are, sliding into the weekend. Like our buddy Kane, friend of Next. That's Cody's son. You've seen him here before. He was not having that slide, not at all. He told us about it. Didn't want to go back to that slide. We finish each week with our antidote to some of the negative poison that is so often in the news. Because each Friday, one of our talented photojournalists, this week Eric Kay, sets out with a camera and a question. What's your good news?
Do I start with I have good news, or how do I start?
My stepdad got promoted in the Army. He's going to be a battalion commander, and he has a ceremony tomorrow morning, and I found a dress. I am very proud of my dad. I'm very, very happy.
I'm almost officially divorced. That's my good news.
Today is the 34th anniversary of my husband asking me to marry him. He's had surgery, couldn't go pick up the flowers, so he asked me to, so I did.
I got frozen yogurt, and I'm on spring break. And I am fundraising for the band at School Mines, and we're doing really great today, even though it's raining.
My good news is that I'm here from Florida, and this is my first time in Golden, which is gorgeous, and it's gonna snow while I'm here.
We need it desperately.
I think the rain is good news. I have a jacket, so I'm not that cold. It smells good. It's really fresh outside, so I like it a lot.
It makes you feel alive, and without a little snow and rain, then you can't appreciate the sunshine.
It's important to have good news because you can make yourself and people around you happy. It just changes your whole day.
Because it makes you be able to get through the day and handle the bad news better.
Gotta have a reason to live, something to hope for.
Let the joy in. Your feedback finishes. Manny Flores says, Kyle, catch me outside. How about I already dead and you're just starting? I've been trying to pick my spot, Manny. I did not have a spot before tonight. Debbie Dyer-Krein writes, love the red hole on the jacket. Custom? Not custom. Listen, we fancy, but we're not that fancy. And Doug Vollmer writes, it is refreshing not having a cookie-cutter news show. Hey, I got nothing against cookies. Sometimes you want cake. You know what I'm saying? Have a great weekend. I'll see you next time.